welcome back. This is the Future Proof Podcast. This is a place where we talk with business owners and entrepreneurs about the journey, about where we've been, where we are now, and in the form of goals where we're trying to get. And I'm very excited to have a special guest today. I have Jennifer Palcic from Breaking Through Intensive Therapy. And good morning and welcome, Jennifer. Where I wanted to start today, and it's funny, as we're sitting here, you did your presentation at BNI about a week ago, coincidentally. And I said something to the room there that I'm going to say in this recording now to start us off, right? Which is in 15 years of BNI, your presentations, which I've been to 2 or maybe 3 of at this point, stood out as unicorns. As good as the content was, it was what happened afterwards that really stood out as a unicorn for me. And what I'm referring to is how every single person had like an amazing testimonial to give about the personal impact that you'd had on their lives and their bodies, or those of the people especially close to them. And there's some commonality where, yes, on the day that somebody gets to do their 10-minute presentation in BNI, people absolutely tend to go out of their way to spotlight them. But this really is different. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's like 15 years of seeing one per week. It's like it absolutely jumped out at me, where it was like, whoa. So before I even knew you, that was my first impression. It was going, whoa, everybody here is really going out of their way to talk about what an impact you had. And so I'm gonna use that as a segue to just let you describe in your own words, what's your sort of elevator pitch meeting somebody for the first time? How do you describe Breaking Through?
Yeah, so I say we, my husband and I, Josh, we own the business together. We're quite a bit different than traditional physical therapy. So we've both been PTs for over 25 years. And like many PTs, we were getting burnt out in the field of physical therapy. We felt like we weren't getting people better the way that we thought people should be getting better in PT. And it was more of like a maintenance program. So we decided to go out on our own, open our own office, because there's always a ceiling where you work. I mean, when you work for someone else. So Josh mostly had really big ideas, and he's like, I'm not allowed to do them where I work. And I think I can do this on my own. And I said, I think you can do it too. I just don't know how we get clients. So fortunately for us, he worked in a special needs community. He worked at Achievement Centers for Children in Westlake. And he said, I think I've built these relationships over the years that people are coming to see me because of what I created here. And I think if I leave, they will follow me. But of course, we didn't know that for sure. So in 2019, we opened our office. And thankfully for us, a lot of families did follow us. So for a while, we were seeing solely special needs families. And we love those clients. They're some of our favorite people in the world. But also, there was a ceiling that started to be created because Josh was the only one that could see these people. We couldn't reproduce Josh. So we knew there was something else we had to do. We just didn't know what that was. So thankfully, again, for Instagram, people are posting all the time on social media. And we found a PT that's located in Colorado. And he was talking about this treatment system that he created. And he educated clinicians on how to do this treatment. So Josh was following him for quite some time. And he finally said to me, I think I need to investigate this further because it's a way to hire more therapists, see a larger clientele, and I don't have to be the only one treating. So I said, okay, I mean, he's my husband. I trust him and he's very good at what he does. And so he contacted this guy. Long story short, he learned the system. At the time, we hired another physical therapist who also learned the treatments. It's called the 180 system. And then I learned the system a little while later. So, like I said in the beginning, we are quite a bit different than traditional physical therapy. So, we're the only PTs in Ohio that use the 180 system to treat our clients. So, unlike traditional PT, we call it they use symptom modification. So if you're having pain in a specific part of your body, they will treat only the area that's in pain. So they'll use modalities such as dry needling, e-stim, cupping, hot and cold therapy, and they'll just treat that area of the body that has pain. So what we've learned with the 180 system is if you're having pain in one area of the body, another area of the body is not working correctly, and that's why you're having pain in that area. So if pain is usually one area is overworking, another area isn't working enough. So when we learned this treatment approach, we started seeing all kinds of clients, not just special needs, so anybody and everyone, and people were getting better really, I mean, fairly quickly. And it was one of those things that we're finding the root cause of your issue, we're fixing it, and then you feel better long term. And we don't need to use modalities because modalities are just a band aid. A lot of people like some of these treatment approaches are trendy, meaning they become popular and then they fade off and another one becomes popular. So sometimes people call us and they say, I'm looking for dry needling. And we'll say, why are you looking for dry needling? And they're like, I have no idea. I just heard I needed dry needling. So, so people don't really know why they need or why they think they need a specific treatment because they don't really understand how it works. So then we educate them. So a lot of our phone calls are a lot of education because if people have found us on Google, they don't understand why we're different. So, like I explained, we find the root cause of the issue. We don't have a set number of sessions that we say everybody needs to come in for um, because everyone's different. And the reason you have pain is different. So we can find out what exactly is going on, fix the problem, and then your pain will be eliminated. Or you may not have pain and you're a athlete and you don't want to get injured. And then we can make sure your body is working to the best of its ability so you don't get injured either. So we see clients that are in pain. Maybe their doctor told them they needed surgery. Maybe they're athletes that work out really hard and they don't want to get hurt because they don't want to stop doing what they're doing. So we can help them too. So I know that was a long elevator pitch, but
No, no, no. I'm following you for sure. And a couple things that come to mind are, certainly like there's the space in. I don't know. I feel like there's a couple spots where I'd been exposed to versions of this prior to meeting you. Meaning, like, I always thought it was funny to hear the chiropractors versus the massage therapists kind of duke out about, like, well, my technique's better kind of stuff, right? And certainly I've had experiences working with a personal trainer in the exercise space, right? Where you might talk through an idea of being like, got it, your glutes are weaker than, the other part of your body, and so you need to get those muscles firing, you know what I mean? Because these other ones are overcompensating, and that's why you're, experiencing this pain. It sounds like part of that frustration that you identified that led you to this approach is part of really the whole system itself, right? That you've got a band-aid system, and that distinction I don't think can be highlighted enough, right? That the traditional methodology in its many forms all still seems to be focused on pain relief and sort of short-term fixes. And it's not, placebo effect is the wrong word for it. I suppose at the moment that somebody is experiencing genuine relief, even if it's temporary, that is a real thing that is happening to them. But they're not sort of clocking the idea of the perpetual transactional nature of that, you know? And I'm not even trying to like throw all these other professionals under the bus as far as like being malicious in that way. It's just sort of the reality of that side of things, you know? Um, and and so, you know, I know, for example, and you can expound on this as you want, that on the one hand, you guys don't accept traditional insurance. It's a private pay opportunity, but that ends up still being a fraction of what anybody would realistically be doling out to try to address their problems in any sort of traditional manner. And again, it's like I've been in groups with massage therapists, I've been in groups with chiropractors, never heard the kind of testimonials, right, of people coming back. And I brought my own daughter to you. I brought Madison to you at the point that, you know, in her competitive dance career, she was experiencing things that were stopping her from being able to get through a particular routine. One thing that stood out is not just the experience that we had on site with you, but you really arm people with homework in a good way. Do you find that that tends to be the distinction in part between, you know, the outcomes that people have is how much they buy into and participate in it?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on some of the things you said, the traditional approach with chiropractor, massage, even physical therapy is they keep having you come back. And I mean, we have people calling us and they've been to like 30 sessions of PT. I go to the chiropractor for the past 3 years. And we point out to them that if you're going to these people on a weekly or monthly basis, they're not getting you better because you're relying on them to feel good. So we don't want people to keep having to run to appointments. So when we say that to people, they tend to go, yeah, okay. And it's one of those like critical thinking pieces. Another thing we don't learn in school is how to critically think. We just do. And that's some of the stuff that we teach the students that we get as well, that you have to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Like, don't just do it because somebody said, oh, we do dry needling when you have pain. Well, why are you doing dry needling when you have pain? And if somebody needs to come in every week, then is that really helping them or is that just maintaining them? And then what we do at Breaking Through is we educate people on what we're doing and why we're doing it and how it's working. And like I just mentioned, we don't want people coming in every week because they need us to in order to feel better. So then yes, we give them the tools they need so they can keep the pain from returning or prevent injury or learn how to move correctly, learn what to do and what not to do, because some of the things we've been indoctrinated to believe is good for us is really not good for us. And that's where my commercials at BNI come in, is I'm trying to educate people on all the things you hear all the time, like do this to prevent this, do that to prevent that. They're not working. And we need to understand like why they're not working and what is the reason why people do the things that are not working. I mean, it's simply because we don't know what else to do. Like the things we learn in school hasn't changed. I mean, PT school hasn't changed in all these decades of PT school. So they literally don't know what they don't know. So it took this therapist in Colorado. He developed this program when he graduated from college because he went to work at the clinic that he did his clinical hours at in school. And he said, we were seeing the same patients that we saw when I was a student. And I asked them and I said, why are we seeing the same people? And their answer was, well, why wouldn't we? They need to come every week. And he said, but that's not why we went to school. We went to school to get people better so you don't need us anymore. And that's a foreign concept. So we've learned this over the years and been indoctrinated that if you want to feel good, you have a guy. You know how people say, oh yeah, I have a guy. I have a chiropractor. I have a PT. I have a massage therapist. Because that's what we've learned. That's what we learned that's what we have to do in order to feel good. So we're flipping that.
Oh yeah, that continued
Yeah.
dependence.
Right.
Yeah.
So people come here and they're like, I don't have to come here all the time in order to feel good. No, here's the tools you need. So you don't need me. I mean, I love seeing you, but you don't need a healthcare professional on a weekly or monthly basis, and you shouldn't in order to feel good.
Well, no, and you touched on again that there is that idea, as I mentioned, that like I've met plenty of very sincere, good natured people where it's like I don't think it's malicious. People that are coming out of school, and you already said it, they don't know what they don't know. And I'll go on a brief tangent to just sit there and say, yeah, broadly speaking, that's just a fascinating area of who we are as human animals, right? Is that we want to absorb things. Like I remember talking to somebody before about like if we literally had to stop and remember the process of tying our shoes, the process of like doing all these things, but it would stop us from like functioning, right? And so much of how we're wired is that we receive information, and once we get it locked in as fact, then that there's a sort of like necessity in that absorption of information. And um whether it's something like that in the body or something like a long held limiting belief that like you sort of go like, where did you like pick that up that you decided like, XYZ was true? You know what I mean? But I want to touch on that mindset stuff too as a bit of a segue, Jen, that while you have things on the physical side, and I'll mention as an aside too that I touched on the idea of how with exercise a lot of these topics come up. You guys do have on site, you know, exercise equipment, more of what I'd consider like a personal trainer type environment. But what I also wanted to touch on, because it's its own unique area, is the brain training side, where I mean, in theory, somebody could. I guess I want the answer to that more than I even want to make assumptions. Tell me more about brain training, and tell me about, I suppose, what sort of intervals for interaction do you guys recommend for best practices on that? Yeah.
Yeah, so the neurofeedback brain training was something we found probably a year and a half into opening our practice. We found it for our family originally. So just a little side tangent. We have 4 kids, and the youngest we adopted from the foster care system. So that's a whole nother show in itself. But we were looking for ways to help him. He was on a lot of medication. He had a lot of trauma in his 8 years of life. And everybody wants to throw medication or counseling, which I always say there's a time and a place for medication, but an 8-year-old boy on 4 different medications was a lot, in my opinion. And so we were looking for ways to help him. We started reading some books, and a couple of them mentioned neurofeedback. And Josh and I have never heard of it before, had never heard of it before. So we Googled it like everyone else does with everything. And we found a place in Cleveland that was offering NeurOptimal neurofeedback, which is what we offer now. And we started taking our son, and we were seeing really positive changes with him. And while he was receiving a session, I was picking, pun intended, the brain of the provider on how this works, why it's working. There's other kinds of neurofeedback that I didn't even know that was out there. And she was explaining to me how it worked. And I said, we could help so many people at breaking through with this. How do I become a provider? And she said, it's a certification, and then you can purchase a system. You don't, like, any background is not required. You don't have to be a healthcare provider in order to use it, purchase it, all the things. So we felt like this was what we needed to do next. And we purchased the system. I became certified. And what it does is it's brain training, like I mentioned. So it's not a medical device. It doesn't treat a diagnosis, but our brain functions in consistent pathways. And your brain will stay in the same pathway because it always moves towards comfort, away from discomfort. So that's how our brain functions naturally. So with the NeurOptimal brain training, your brain can learn that there's other options or pathways that it can function in, but it has to find comfort in them. So by doing the sessions, your brain will be introduced to new pathways. And then after being introduced for a certain period of time, your brain will find comfort in the new pathways. and then it will learn how to function in them. So you can see benefits in anything from sleep to anxiety, attention, focus. Even people that have seizure disorders, their seizures have been eliminated or significantly decreased. Depression, addiction. So, really, the possibilities are endless. It's just we can't predict how a client will respond to it because it's how your brain will respond to it. And all our brains are different. So, it's extremely safe because, unlike the traditional approach to neurofeedback, it doesn't push your brain to do something it doesn't want to do because it's saying we're treating ADHD, so we're going to use the ADHD protocols. NeurOptimal doesn't have set protocols and it doesn't push the brain. It simply shows the brain what it already has, and then the brain makes all the decisions as to what's comforting and what isn't. So you asked about like frequency. We have different options at Breaking Through that you can either come in and do sessions. And I tell people, like, plan on coming in 2 to 3 times a week initially, just so your brain, because I compare it to working out physically. The more you work out initially, the more you're going to become stronger, be able to do more things like that. And so, same with your brain. Initially, come in 2 to 3 times a week for a few weeks. Then maybe we can back it off to 1 or 2 times. And then we also have rental options where you can rent the system, take it home. Everyone in your household can do sessions, and that's for unlimited sessions for 4 weeks or longer if you want to extend it. And then I say, do a session every day until you start to feel like, is this too much? Is this not enough? So it's simple to use, very user friendly, and the benefits are really great.
And is this sound? Is it visual? Is it invisible? Is it all of the above?
So when you get hooked up, there's 5 sensors on your head and ears, and music plays while the session is going. And what the music is doing is you need a sound. So when the brain is listening to the sound, the sensors on the top of the head are detecting any change in activity on the surface of the brain. So this is non-invasive as well, non-medical, non-invasive. And whenever the sensors detect a change in activity, the music gets a pause or a skip in it. And what that does is it instantly brings the brain to the present moment. And then your brain decides what it wants to do with the information it's receiving. So it's simple. You sit in a chair, relax, and your brain is doing all the work. So that's why it's easy for kids to use, adults. I mean, the only thing is you have to sit there because you're hooked up. It's a computer and sensors. That's all it entails.
So people come in with different types of, like, I was thinking in my own situation how I'm learning. I'm sort of back in student mode for a business project at the moment where I am taking on new challenges, and my brain and other things are being called upon to stretch, right? And so I'm hearing what you're saying and going, interesting, that could actually be a good call to action in terms of a moment to say, okay, I recognize that these choices, these external things in my world are going to require getting out of my comfort zone, maybe using a tool that supports that proactively could be a way to do it. That's a proactive sort of thought process versus somebody who, again, maybe is feeling stuck in a rut. Depression was something that you mentioned, and that you've also seen it. It sounds like be a tool to help people break through in a whole different space. In terms of yeah, shaking things up a little bit and disrupting their patterns. And that gets interesting again, back to even what I was talking about the long held beliefs of it all. You know what I mean? And that a tool that could tap into, again, I'll use that word, disrupting those thought patterns. Sounds like it could be a really powerful and interesting shortcut, accelerant, just a different layer in anybody who's pursuing that process.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on that a little, just like our PT approach, this can be proactive. Like I said, with the physical therapy side, we have plenty of people that come in so they don't get hurt or injured, so they don't need surgery. Same with the brain training. What you said is exactly right. Like I do it. I mean, I'm not necessarily going through anything that I'm struggling with right now, but I do it because my brain can even function better than I am today. So if I can continue, like one of the things we learn when we're getting certified is that, I mean, this isn't what I learned, but it's true. Our brain is a different brain every single day. Just because it's another day or a day older, maybe you got stuck in traffic this morning and you're totally stressed out. So our brain is a completely different brain every single day. So if we continually show it that there's other options to function in, your brain will always find the most optimal pathway to function in. So yes, it can be a proactive thing. Like we're business owners and just that alone is stressful, busy. We work long hours. I have to think about, we wear many hats. We're doing the books, we're running the business, we're therapists, we're supervisors, all the things. And we didn't necessarily go to school for that. So if we can have our brain functioning at its best, we would see a lot of benefits in a lot of those aspects of our life. So yes, it can be proactive.
Wow. Yeah. No. And even back to where you were talking about that when you're getting acclimated to it, that you're recommending the 3 times a week of it all. I'm just thinking about the sort of almost obvious nature of that answer, right? Of going like, yeah, of course it can be proactive in the same way that like exercise, right? You don't have to be at a point of going, I've let, my body, like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be a reaction to something. To start an exercise routine, you can just sit there and say, no, I care about, the form that I'm in, and so I want it to be in optimal condition. Similarly, I care about my brain, I care about its longevity, and so pursuing things that put it in an optimal place. It's like, yeah, why wait for trauma?
Yes, yeah. And just to touch on that too is like what I said earlier, we don't critically think a lot anymore, unfortunately. So we're living in a world that people have a screen in the palm of their hands. Whenever question they want answered, they search it. If they want to know what the weather is, they don't even look up to look out the window. They open the app on their phone. We're not using our brains the way we did decades ago. And it's unfortunate because we see it with our kids and the students we get, they just do. Like someone tells them to do this and they say, okay, I'll do that. And we're trying to teach our kids, like, well, ask questions, like ask as many questions as you need to ask to understand why you're doing something or why, like, I mean, kind of just what you touched on, like we should be taking care of ourselves not because we reached a point that we have to, but so we don't reach the point that we have to. And we don't do that anymore. So we're like Josh and I feel like sometimes we're in a business of common sense, which I know a lot of businesses can be that way. A lot of different services can be that way. But when we educate people on what we know to be is good for you and what we know is not good for you, people look at us and go, oh, well, how come no one else tells us that? And we look at them and said, well, no, no one told us either. We figured it out. We said, why are we doing the things that we've always believed to be true to take care of ourselves? Because it's not working. So there's got to be a different way to take care of yourself. And that's what we found in PT and brain training.
Well, and I want to segue into goals through another proactive thing that we've talked about a little bit offline, which is my personal one is the music side, right? That I'm 43, I've been playing drums and guitar for my entire life, and I've noticed that the way my thumb absorbs shock, the way that the grip strength has changed when I play guitar or hold sticks or do these different things. The way my shoulders act, there's stuff that I'm starting to feel the repetitive motion strains of. And I care so much about being able to continue to do this activity, just like any of the athletes that come in any of those spaces that sit there and go like, yeah, this is a source of joy. This is something I love. You know what I mean? It's important to me. So you and I have talked a little bit about some of the in-house clinics and things that you do. I'm going to toss a lot at you and then like hear your response. But like, so I want to talk about music clinics and any other sort of clinics that you want to do. I'm curious about, for anybody who ends up hearing this who isn't local to the Middleburg Heights area, to what extent you can engage with people remotely at all, whether remote is something that you can support, and then any other long-term goals that you want to share. So that's a lot I threw at you, but yeah.
No, that's okay. So just to start with brain training, I did mention rentals. Um, I ship systems anywhere in the United States. So if somebody wants to learn about neurofeedback brain training and they want to do it, I can help pretty much anyone in the US. I say US because I've looked at shipping to Canada and it's just not worth the money. So you can buy a system if you live in Canada. But NeurOptimal is something that's worldwide. So there's providers all over the world that provide it. So if I can't ship it to you, I will find somebody that can. But as far as in-house, we do offer monthly seminars. So I started doing a monthly neurofeedback seminar. It's been in the morning on the first Tuesday of every month, but I'm planning on moving the time of it. Like 1 month it might be morning, the next month it might be evening, just to be able to reach different people. And then the physical therapy side, we want to offer a seminar once a month. We have actually, we started that too. And focus on different topics or clientele or things like that. Like I know you and I have talked about getting your musician friends and doing a whole seminar for musicians, because we have worked with musicians and they say the same thing as you is, I'm holding a guitar every day of my life because I'm on worship team, I'm in a band, whatever it is. And I don't want to stop doing that. So we will never, like one of the things that I thought of when you were talking is that we see clients on a fairly regular basis that come in and say, I've been to the chiropractor, I've been to PT, and I want to run, I want to golf. And they just say, well, if that hurts, just don't do it, which we feel is just awful. Like, I mean, like the two of us, we're not old. We're not like, like to say that to somebody is just, that's your solution. This hurts. So just don't do it. Don't do it ever again. Well, we don't believe that that's a valid answer. So if you're a musician and you want to play your instrument and you don't want to have pain, we're going to help you with that. If you want to run, we saw a guy, he was in his early 40s and he found us a couple of years ago, and now he just comes in every 3 months to get like a tune up. But he came in and he was in his early 40s. He's like, yeah, I was a golfer and I don't golf anymore. And we said, do you want to golf? And he goes, oh, I'd love to. I just can't. My back hurts. And we said, no, we'll get you golfing. And so now he golfs. He goes on trips to golf and he's loving golfing. So, we are offering seminars. We just did one on golf. This month, we're doing one on back pain. And then I know we talked about doing one. It'll touch on shoulder and elbow and things like that. But if you have a group of musician friends that you want to bring in, we'll do a seminar just for you guys. But yeah, we want to bring awareness to what we do. So those seminars are free. And we have registration and things like that. But a lot of what we do, people don't understand why we're different. Like going back to the start of this conversation, people look at us like, oh, you're a PT. We know what you do. Brain training is a little more unfamiliar. So that's why the seminar started with that. And then we just want people to understand why we're different and what we do and how you don't need us only when you're injured or in pain, how we can prevent surgery. So that's why we're hosting these seminars once a month for each. And then hopefully you'll tell your friends, somebody else will tell their friends, and it's like 30 to 45 minutes, no more than an hour. And you come in, you get a little education, and then people can better explain what we do. Or if they think they need our services, then they're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So that's what we're building at the moment right now.
And to fast forward, like if we were having this conversation again in 5 years, are there some things that would have happened? You know what I mean? Like, what would you like to have had achieved? You know what I mean? To if we were talking in 5 years and you were looking back, tell me about that perspective.
Right. We would love a couple of more therapists, but they have to be invested in our treatment because that's obviously the main qualification, that you have to be already have taken the 180 system program or you are willing to do it, because that's what sets us apart. So a couple more therapists. So when Josh and I step out of the building, our business runs without us because right now it does not. And we're okay with that. We love what we do, but it would be nice to grow it and teach other therapists how to set themselves apart, because that's our goal too. Like, we want PT to become more of this rather than where it is right now, because there's plenty of people that go to school to be PTs and they get burnt out because traditional physical therapy is a burnout. You're a mill and you're seeing as many clients as you can in a day, and you're doing the same thing with every client, and your brain is not doing what you thought you were going to do when you went to school. So if we can train more therapists with this, with the help of our mentor, that would be amazing. And we change the whole world of PT. Um, we would like breaking through to be, I mean, we're down the street from Southwest General and Cleveland Clinic. We want, not that I'm ever going to put them out of business, but we want breaking through to be just as well known as Cleveland Clinic, because everybody thinks they need to go to the Cleveland Clinic for everything, which there's a time and a place. I would go to the Cleveland Clinic for certain things too, but physical therapy in the hospital system is not anything stellar just because it has a name in front of it. So if breaking through became just as well known as the Cleveland Clinic, because we're actually getting people better and we're on the map just like they are. So that would be amazing. And then just with the brain training, this is a tool that's safe, it's effective. It can help everyone. It can really help everyone. So just to get that more well known, and then to, again, to train more people in doing that, because that could be a career in itself or an addition to your career that you already have. So we love to educate people. We love to get people to think. Like when we have students from, we take a lot of students from CSU, and they come in and they tell us what they've been talking about in school. And we say, well, we're going to flip that completely around. So they look at us first with a little like, huh? And then when they see what we do, they're like, okay, I wish we would learn this in school. So if we can somehow get in the schools with these two options, brain training and 180, I know our business mentor, that's his goal too. Like, if we can start in the education portion of physical therapy, then we can blow this thing up. So it's really fun when we do conferences together with other 180 providers nationwide, and our ideas are amazing. So if we can blow this thing up and start getting 180 like a household name, then that would make all the difference in at least physical therapy. So I mean, we're motivated. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about an impact that goes beyond growing your business to revolutionizing how that work is performed. You know what I mean? And to your point, yes, seeing that it's possible. Um, it's fun being special. It's fun being a unicorn. But what you're describing and the problem that's being solved is like kind of too important to stay a secret. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And that's our goal. Like, we want, when we say, hey, we're 180 providers, we want people like you to say, oh, that's where I want to go. But right now it's a whole bunch of education, which obviously you educate in many businesses, but for the 180 system to become, oh, that's the therapist I want to go see because I understand what they do and I've heard of that, and it's really great and it's effective and they're changing people's lives. I mean, it's humbling sometimes, like you mentioned BNI, when everybody stands up and tells us what we do is amazing. Like, we are doing what we learned how to do and what we're passionate about, and we see the results. But for people to stand up and tell us like how we changed their lives, but we always say you changed your life, we just gave you the tools you needed. But it's humbling, and it obviously it makes you feel good, but we're not in the business to like be the best. We truly want to help people, and that's what we're passionate about. And then what we learned made this even bigger and better than what we could have ever imagined. And it's every day we come into work and we're like, this is so fun. Like, it truly is fun.
Well, that's fantastic. In closing, you know, where do you like to be found online? What are the best ways for people to engage with you?
Yeah, so we have social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Thanks to our assistant, we have TikTok because I don't go on TikTok. I never look at it. But yeah, we're on all three. We have a website, breakingthroughit.com. And then you can email us, call us. Yeah, our information, if you Google Breaking Through, we come up, and everything on Google is all up to date and everything like that. But yeah,
Well, I really appreciate you taking some time to share your world with our listeners, and I like the idea, like I said, of revisiting down the road, so we can talk about how those goals played out, and yeah, that'll be fun to look forward to. So, thank you for the work that you do and the impact that you guys are having, and I respect the mission. I respect the impact that you're having, and I just think you guys are great people. So, thank you.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having
It's a
me.
pleasure. Thanks, Jen.